What's up, friends? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Cine25 Wednesday. I don't know. Lately, I've been pinching you guys with these pliers a lot. I don't know why. That was Pride Run 2025 with a 65mm 04 rig. I gotta turn the saturation and the contrast down a little bit. I think you can maybe adjust those, maybe not. I am very used to seeing footage coming out of the GoPro in log format, though, so that might be why that looks so overly contrasty and saturated to me. You never know. Hey, I figured out what was wrong with the 3D printer the other day. I had changed when you load the filament. The Bamboo printer asks you to change the filament type on the actual 3D printer itself, but then you also need to change it in the software, and I'd forgotten to, and that's why I had such crappy. So I went from I did it when I went from TPU to PLA. I changed it on both, but then when I went back to TPU, I forgot to change it in the software, and so I did it. I printed exactly what I was having issues with before, with the proper TPU settings, and all is right with the world. Everything is releasing just fine, and it also looks a lot better. I'm shocked that it printed okay on the PLA settings. I can't believe it wasn't worse. It's kind of cool that they're as similar as they are. I assumed that TPU would have like wildly different settings, but apparently not. And so yeah, this is the last one from this most recent bed of printing stuff that I'm ripping some support material off of. So yeah, there's that. Tonight we are going to be talking about soldering. How not to suck at it, basically, during the process of swapping an ESC out. ESCs are such a perfect opportunity to kind of talk about soldering, talk about what's going on, how to get good quality joints. And so, yeah, we're going to dive in. This is one of the live broadcast rigs that the ESC so with any gear that I use professionally, every few batteries I will blast full throttle and or like put it into prop wash. I generate a bunch of stress on the ESC in a safe place, in hopes that it'll fall out of the air there when I do that versus when I'm actually running it. This is the first time I've ever had something. When I build professional rigs, I use better quality components. I don't thrash on it, and so they tend to last a long time. But I've always been kind of paranoid about it, and so yeah, either like before the gig or sometimes during the gig, I'll do that. I'll go like full throttle, throw it in the prop wash, snap roll, snap flips, to try to stress it out so that, again, if it fails somewhere safe. I did that exact thing at the Anniston, Alabama Criterium race, and like 3/4 of the way through the day, I was coming back to the tent. I hadn't blasted full throttle in a couple of passes, so I came in really fast where there were no people. I put the nose up and I just buried the throttle to get it to just and stop, and it went and then it dropped an arm and tumbled and slammed into a brick wall, which grenaded the AOS Cine25 frame. But that was a really good. I wasn't even remote. I wasn't mad at all. Like that was amazing. I was happy that it happened. That ESC, which is this ESC here, is in theory on its way out. Maybe not. Maybe it was a fluke, but I don't care. It's gone. You know, with a working rig, if it betrays you, you replace whatever you think could have betrayed you with brand new, and you move on, regardless of the cost. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to swap the ESC out. to an Axis 30 amp. It's actually it's a 2 to 6S ESC, but I'm not gonna run 6S through it. These things are all built for 4S, and so yeah, we should be good. Axis makes really nice stuff, and so this thing should be better off than it was. I believe this was an iFlight ESC. It sure would be nice if they like silkscreened that on it somewhere. You know what I mean? Nope. No indication whatsoever of the manufacturer. The reason I think it's an iFlight manufacturer is this little sticker right here. This sticker says FC. I believe iFlight is the company that does that. They label the cable. But yeah, there's no. I mean, this is normal. It's normal that there's no indication whatsoever of what the flight controller is. But that's stupid. Like the manufacturer, the model number, that kind of stuff should be printed on these things. It's kind of important. Does anybody recognize it? This is what it looks like from the top. And then this is what it looks like on the bottom. 10 points if you recognize this or can find this on the internet. You know what the dead giveaway is? This right here. The fact that there are pads down here in case you break that. If you want to make it flatter, you can break the JST off on the other side, or if the JST breaks off, you can use these pads. That's a dead giveaway. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure it is iFlight because of that. But I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again. So yeah, this should be fairly straightforward because everything is just coming off and then going right back on. Like I'm gonna pull each one of these motors off and then just solder it directly up to this. Everything is the correct length. Technically, like I have these wires facing downwards, so that's another giveaway. The ESC pads on this thing are the little pockets. And so that's going to change a little bit. This doesn't have the pockets. This just has regular pads, but that's okay. We'll just turn the wires out and the wires will be ever so slightly longer and all will be right with the world again. So yeah, exciting times. Exciting times, I tell ya. In the chat, Sleepy FPV was first. Ketchup was second. Just ketchup. Fizz PV. Uriel, Sober Life, County FPV. Sporty. What's the story behind Sporny? Craig, Denzel the Terrible, Uriel, Frosty, Hendrix Freakazoid, M. Tyler 2469, Denzel the Terrible, Brent Anderson, Bob Bruce, Andrew Taylor, County again, Denzel the Terrible again, Bob Bruce, Adam Weston. Trying to sort through all the duplicates here. Craig, Morton Upshot. Now I can't talk. Brian Kirk. I think I got everybody. What's up, friends? Thanks for coming. If you're considering joining Patreon, now's a great time. I don't know what happened, but it went down a bunch. So if you have a couple extra bucks, hop onto my Patreon. It makes a huge difference. It's the only way I can do this. CiottiFPV.com has a link to it. Or just go to Patreon and search for CiottiFPV. It makes a huge difference. It is how I do this. Dual operator. What's that? We usually do the dual operator on the... Oh, that's interesting. What's an I2? I2. I don't know what an I2 is. Somebody joined the Patreon, and I want to give them their shout out, but my email has completely exploded today. Where is it? There it is. Rick Hard, welcome to the Gangly Gang, man. Thank you for joining the Patreon. Very cool of you. I appreciate it very much. And there might have been one more. double check. Nah, I think we're good. All right, cool. If you want to talk directly to me in the chat, all you got to do is type CiottiFPV. It'll light up an orange for me. If you want to get somebody else's attention, type their name. If you type Uriel and you spell it correctly, for Uriel, his own name will light up an orange. And then he'll see your message, read it, get back to you. So use it, yo. Tag people. Soberlife FPV tagged me and said, I ordered the Meteor 75 Pro frame and GemFan 45mm biblade and tri-blades. Going to be on Matrix AIO and Project Topspin 802 24,000 motors. What's your opinion? My opinion is that those propellers are, and it's not really my opinion, it's just fact. Those GemFan 45mm bi and tri-blade propellers are not balanced. So you're going to have a really hard time with those props. If you can sneak another order in, order the HQ 45mm bi-blade and tri-blades. Make sure you get the right dimension for whatever those motors are, 1mm or 1.5mm. And then that thing will fly good. But yeah, also the GemFan props are way too heavy, so they don't perform. Even if they were, like if you were to sit there and balance them, they're way too heavy and they don't perform all that well. So get rid of those props and get into some HQs, and you'll be much better off. My general opinion on the only problem there is that the HQ props are a little fragile. They break at the hub. This is one of the reasons why I've moved away from the like, what is it, like 1.7 or 1.8 inch propellers, I guess it would be. What's 45mm in cheeseburger units? 45mm in, let's see what Google does in cheeseburger units. It's going to figure it out, isn't it? It is. What? Oh my God. Finally, AI does something well. Jesus Christ. Wow, that's ridiculous. No sense of humor, that AI. 45mm in inches, 1.77, so it's not quite 1.8 inch, but yeah, I stay away from the 75 Pro stuff because you only have that one propeller option, and it's kind of fragile. So like flying around your yard, it's fine, but if you were to take that somewhere where there's a chance that like if a propeller explodes mid-flight, you're not getting the quad back, that kind of sucks, because eventually that's what's going to happen and you're not going to get the quad back. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that 45mm stuff, but it is a little bit more efficient, and for 1S, it actually flies really good. Like that rig will fly good. You just got to make sure that you don't fly it somewhere unrecoverable, because those props are going to explode. And so, yeah, do it. Denzel the Terrible says, waiting for CiottiFPV to put that tiny whoop in someone's hair. Yeah, I was getting I get pretty brave with the little 65, because it's like, what's it gonna do? It's, couldn't hurt a fly. Brent Anderson says, shameless YouTube flight video plug. When and if you can find me at Newborn, KNEWBORENE. There you guys go. Go check it out. Uriel says, I'm here 4 a.m., but see what I gotta crash. Craig says, boy, 3D printing has lots of details, just like FPV. It really does. Craig also says, thanks for printing for me. You're certainly welcome, man. Thanks for ordering for me. Somatic is in the house. What's up, homie? How you been? Somatic's got all the cool gigs, man. I am so fucking jealous of all the Red Rocks flying that he does. So cool that he got that gig and continues to get those. That's absolutely amazing. Well deserved. Fizz PV says, rarely change my props and have yet to have one do either. Yeah, tiny whoops do not typically blow props up all that much, which is why it's so like shocking when the HQ ultralights blow up, because it's like, damn, I haven't had a tiny whoop prop die in a long time. Oh, just got 10% sexier in here. Islander FPV says, "Aloha, sir. Do you have any batteries on the charger?" I do not. We're not flying tonight. Tonight is not a 6-battery live stream. We're going to talk, and then we're going to work on this. And then when I'm done working on this, I got to put it back together because I got to try to fly it tomorrow. Today was rainy all day, and so I drug my feet, and I thought it would be a cool thing to do on the live stream. But yeah, tomorrow this thing has to be up in the air. So I'm up. I'm staying up tonight until it's ready to go, and then I'll blast it around tomorrow to test this ESC, make sure all is well. Chupa FPV, thanks for script. Yukon FPV says, what 1.6 props are good? Doing a build, about to put an order in. I have 0802 motors, 1mm motor shafts. With 1.6-inch props, here's the deal. It's really nice. For recoverable flying around your yard, whatever, the HQ ultralights are awesome. For if you don't want to deal with the potential of your propellers exploding, or if you're going to be flying it sketchy, unrecoverable, the GemFan 1610 biblade is amazing. There's nothing wrong with that propeller. The HQ biblades perform a little bit better, admittedly, because they're so much lighter weight, but they're glass cannons. So yeah, get them both. Get the GemFan 1610s, get some of the HQ ultralights. They have them in both biblade and tri-blade. You might as well get all three options and make up your own mind. But yeah, those are the three that you want. W. Marcus says, I have a BetaFPV HX115LR toothpick. It felt underpowered on 1S, so I switched to 2S BT 3.0, but it still seems to not fly great. Random wobbling while flying. How do I improve the flying? So when you went to 2S, what did you do about the fact that the motors are then gonna be twice as powerful, which is gonna be like way too much? So here's the HX 115. I want to know what motors are on it. So it looks like it's an 1102 18,000 kV motor, which is actually a half decent motor for smaller propellers on 2S, but on big ass propellers like this, that's going to be way too high of a kV. So you need to be using motor limiting. I would motor limit to like at least 80% to get started if you plan on running it on these great big propellers. Maybe even more. Do a motor limit in the PIDs tab of 70% and see how it is if you haven't already. And yeah, that's gonna get you. That'll get you started. If it's still wobbling around, man, I don't know. These 11, so these are 11, excuse me, these are 1102 18,000s. They should be great on 2S. Like, this thing should blast on 2S. Here's another thing you can try. Drop it down to 2.5-inch props just to see. Grab a set of 2.5-inch biblades and throw those on it just to kind of take a look at what happens when you put a lighter weight, less draggy propeller on there. It's like a $5 experiment, and it could kind of help you out. But yeah, try that. Zarkad says, you've pointed out issues with BetaFPV flight controllers. Any thoughts on good substitute flight controllers on Air 75 and Meteor 75 Pro? You know, the old BetaFPV AIO I actually liked a lot better, but it didn't have a VTX built in. I really like that their new flight controllers do have VTXs built in, but man, those VTXs are problematic. Meteor 75 Pro frame, you can't. Well, so here's another problem with the Pro frames, the 75 Pro and the 65 Pro. Um, those frames have pulled the ducts in a little bit. Actually, no, they've gone to a bigger propeller, but they haven't pushed the ducts out. They've left the motor mounting locations in the same spot, and they've just made the prop guards bigger. In the process of doing that, there's no longer a straight line of clearance, and you have to run a flight controller that's like this. And so that limits you to the new Mobula 6 2024 AIO, which is my favorite of the cut down AIOs. There's also the newbie drone Hummingbird V4 AIO, which seems like it's pretty good, although it's kind of annoying to have to use the smaller motor plugs. And then there's the Air 65 AIOs and the Matrix AIO. The Air 65 and the Matrix AIOs, these are the ones that go full rainbow. They're just not quite right. I don't know what's going on with them. They do work most of the time, but it does get a little bit annoying. And so, yeah, really for using regular motor plugs, the Super X that Happy Model makes for the Mobula 6 2024 is the only of these smaller cut down AIOs that doesn't have like weird issues. It has a little bit of video noise. It has a little some like kind of diagonal lines video noise. It's not that bad though. So that's really the one. That's kind of the only one at the moment. Sober Life says the shaft diameter is 1 millimeter. I can't find the HQ in 45, but I did find 40 millimeter bi-blades. Will that work? 40 millimeter props on a frame designed for 45 millimeter you're dragging around all the extra weight of that bigger frame for no benefit. So yes, you can absolutely do that, but there's kind of no reason to. Hold on. Sober Life also says, just so you know, I'm on your Patreon as Nathan Henderson. Thank you for joining, brother. Oh, man, I don't know what happened. I missed a whole bunch of chat. Hold on. Uriel says, there was a joke in Pulp Fiction about ketchup. There is. Craig says, speaking of flight controllers, how hard is it to replace the weird tower ELRS antenna with a simple wire? I have 2 Air 65s. Super easy. I've done it on the live stream twice. It's all about which is the right pad. And so ELRS, if you search for ELRS antenna, there you go. Fix Shit Friday, fixing a broken ELRS ceramic antenna, and then another ELRS ceramic antenna repair. Oh God, I did it 3 times. Look at that. Yeah, I've done it a bunch. Oh my God, I did it again. I did it 4 times. Yikes. Yeah, super easy. You just either, so there's 4 pads for the ELRS ceramic antenna. 3 pads are grounds. 1 of them is active. You can sit there and sometimes see the traces off the active element pad, but what I usually do is just solder it down, fire it up real quick, see if the link quality is dog shit or if it's 100, and then just switch it from one pad to the next, and you'll pretty quickly find it. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward stuff. Props. Okay, so we're looking for 45 millimeter. Where's it at? HQ 45 millimeter. Where are you? Nope, that's 1.6. I guess they're on Tiny Whoop. Let's see. Props, 45 millimeters. Here we go. No, 1.5 millimeter motor shaft. What the hell? Hold on. Let's try. For Christ's sakes. All right, hold on. I'm pretty sure they exist. Oh, that ain't it. 1.5 millimeter. Really? Here we go. We're on HQ's website. 45 mil, 45 by 2. Here's the 1.5 millimeter motor shaft ones. Where the hell? I think this is it. 1.6. Well, it's closer to 1.7. What the hell? Does it not exist? Are they all 1.5 mil? I mean, they should be 1.5 millimeter motor shaft because when you build a rig that's that heavy, you need that extra girth. No, well, I'm sorry, 1.6. Nah, that ain't it. Wow, they don't. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize they didn't have them in 45 mil. Well, that stinks. Yikes. Well, you can get bells and then bell swap them to a 1.5 millimeter motor shaft bell. 45 by 3, 1.5 millimeter shaft. Yeah, I think that's going to be my recommendation, is that you bell swap those motors. I know that kind of sucks, but welcome to life. Welcome to FPV. Kind of sucks. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Weebleed sells the 1.5 millimeter motor shaft 802 replacement bells, and I think AliExpress does as well. I don't think you can get them from Tiny Whoop yet. Hopefully in the future you'll be able to. Craig says Air 65 one old 4-in-1 with a tower ELRS, other newer 5-in-1 with a simple wire, much more distance on the wire. I know, right? Why did they put these ceramic ELRS towers in when the range sucks? They're not any lighter. They're a pain in they get knocked off. It's so stupid. Zarkad says, oh no, we got that. All right, so I just completely missed a couple of those chat comments. That's very weird. Getting caught back up. W. Marcus says, I'll try the motor limit. I didn't realize I needed to change that. Thanks for the advice. Okay, yeah. So if you hadn't done a motor limit, the PID loop had access to too much power, basically. And that's going to cause all kinds of weird issues. So yeah, gotta motor limit those down. Like I said, start at 70. It's in the PIDs tab. It's called motor limiting. Put it to 70, fly it, see how it is. Should be a lot better. FizzPV says, the new Matrix is okay. I just hate the crappy non-USB plug. Mine broke off, so I can't adjust anything. Yep, mine too. My Matrix, it was my fault. I had the battery lead wrapped around that JST plug header, and then I crashed in a way that it pulled on that. I can't blame BetaFPV for that. Although, if it happened to you as well, maybe I can blame BetaFPV for that. I don't know. I definitely had them. I definitely had the cables routed in a piss poor kind of way. So I'll blame myself. All right, I think I'm caught up on chat. Let's dive in to Soldering 101. So really quickly, we're going to talk about gear. Gear is not the most important thing, but it is important. There are a couple things that will make your life so much easier and make the quality of your soldering so much better. There was one more thing I was going to grab. What the hell was it? Oh, there it is. Okay. 4 essential pieces of soldering gear. 4.5. This mat over here, this is a silicon mat. That accomplishes 2 things. If you accidentally touch the tip of your soldering iron to it, it doesn't melt like all the other mats. But the reason that I like these silicone mats is that they're grippy. Like the mat doesn't want to move. See how that, like, this isn't going to roll. See that? It's a nice grippy material. So when you're here and you're half-assing it and you're just holding the component down with one finger and soldering with the other, when you bring the soldering iron in, it's not going to skid all over the desk. It's not going to slide all over the damn place. This is really nice. This is my favorite work mat that I've ever found. It's not the coolest looking, but hey, it gets the job done and it doesn't get all melted and look like absolute hell. So this is kind of like item number 0.5. The rest of this stuff is pretty important. Your solder should be either MG Chemicals or the other company that makes good solder. Kester. Kester is the other company that makes good solder. MG Chemicals or Kester, a roll like this will last you about a decade. This roll is fresh because I just recently, after almost 10 years of doing this, made it through one of these. How much is in here? It doesn't even tell you how much is in here. But yeah, a roll this size lasts a long ass time. 6337 is the solder that you want. 6337, not 6040, not 7030. 6337 is the ratio of lead to something else. But yeah, that's what you want. The thickness, the gauge, is totally up to you. A good, like, normal diameter is 22 gauge, which is also 0.032 inches. Other than that, yeah. MG Chemicals or Kester, 6337, 22 gauge, 0.032. Or you can get thicker or thinner. It doesn't really matter. This is just a good kind of middle ground. Important to have half decent solder. If you have no name solder or like Home Depot solder, you're gonna have a hard time, guaranteed. Flux. Solder has a core of flux, but it's not enough. This is flux paste in a syringe. This is amazing. The fact that it's a paste, when you put a little blob of it on, it stays there. It stays where you need it. The flux pen is liquid flux. When you touch it to the joint, it flows all over the place, and then you typically don't have enough of it. This is awesome. And you want to use this flux all the damn time. So get yourself a syringe of flux paste. It doesn't matter who it is. Flux kind of is what it is. It's basically just petroleum. But yeah, a flux syringe with flux paste in it, or a little tub of flux paste where you can scoop it out and rub it on there. But man, the syringe is super, super handy. OmniFixo, the best helping hands that there are. They stay where you put them. They don't, like when you push on it and then you let go, it doesn't recoil. All the other helping hands, you push, you let go, and they recoil back a bunch. These are balls in magnets. And so you push it and it stays. 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 These also open flat. They're not alligator clips. They open nice and flat, so they hold stuff nice and flat. This OmniFixo is brilliant. This is the only helping hands that you need. It's also nice and small, so you can move it on your desk. It's not on like the 10-pound weight where it's a complete pain in the ass with gangly arms all over the place, where like if you tried to move it, it would be a disaster. This thing specifically being small like this, when you've got your shit mounted to it, if it's not quite the right angle, you just pick this up and reorient it, and away you go. The Omni Fixo is amazing. Amazing, amazing. Last but not least is some sort of magnification. I don't care how good your vision is. Working on tiny whoops, working on micros, you need some sort of magnification. Somebody posted on my Discord the other day that there are magnified reading glasses, which are basically the same thing as these, but more comfortable. I like that idea a lot. I'm gonna try to remember to find those in a store and snag a set. But this works too. This is Yakdo Soon. You'll never find this brand again. There's 8,000 different brands that make and sell the same thing. Just go to like Amazon or eBay and type in like magnifying head-mounted goggles or something like that, and there'll be 8,000 different options here. There'll be a bunch that look exactly like this. These work really, really well. They come with a whole bunch of different lenses. These are the most magnification lenses, which are 2.5x. Absolutely essential to be able to get good quality work is to be able to see what the hell you're doing. You want to try to like put a 30 gauge wire through a through hole on a flight controller. Good fucking luck without some kind of magnification. You might get the majority of the strands through there, but there's going to be a couple of strands that don't go through that through hole. And those strands are going to go like this, and they're going to try to bridge to a pad next door. And if it's an important pad, you're going to blow that flight controller up. So some kind of magnification is super important. You can technically just get a little 5 or 10x loop and then squint in a way that it holds it in your eye. But it's a pain in the ass. You should have one of these as well, because this is going to be 5 or 10x, and these are going to be 2.5x magnification. So you want to have both of these. But yeah, you got to have some sort of magnification to be able to solder the small stuff. Just trust me. Don't be like, nah, bro, my vision's great. My vision is great. I have better than 20/20 vision. Ever since starting to use magnification, the quality of my work has gone up quite a bit. Quite a bit. Brian Kirk says, does the kaack firmware have issues when changing Betaflight settings? I get a rebooting on the screen. After rebooting, it needs to be powered cycle to go away. Yeah, mine does the same thing. Annoying, but not the end of the world. Denzilla Terrible says, show us your big old solder balls. It's coming up. CMYK says, hello, what's up, dude? All right. Chat, I'm caught up on. Let's dive in. Matter of fact, hold on. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, I'm waiting on this goddamn package. I was really hoping to get this Cineglide put back together. The package is supposed to be here Tuesday. What the hell's going on with it? Here it is from PowerDrone. I was hoping to do a mailbag today. Oh, it got delayed. Monday, June 9th. What the hell? Oh, it's stuck in California. Get out of California, bro. Come on now. Oh, well. All right. Zero Volt has the exact same nerd goggles, but they have a different brand on them. Yeah, I think there's like 30 different brands for them. It's ridiculous. Well, away we go. So, one of the things that's kind of annoying here is that one of these ESCs has the plug header on top. One of them has it on the bottom. Not the end of the world. I'm just going to need to change the way that the hardware is kind of stacked up. I'm going to need to lift this flight controller up a little bit more. And I'm going to need to put the flight controller and ESC a little bit closer to one another. That is really no big deal, though. I think, first things first, let's prep the new ESC. So let's get this on out of here. And I'm going to work directly on this silicone desk. Hold on. This is just disgusting. This right here is the only problem with the silicone desk, silicone mat, is that it's like grippy, and so like the stuff grips to it. The solution is like water, like just spit on it or get a little bit of water on here, and then when you wipe it off, this stuff will come off. I don't have my little, I have a microfiber that I usually use to wipe shit off. I don't have it on me though, it's over there on the table, so we'll be okay. All right, so prepping an ESC means tinning all of the pads. You're gonna tin all of the motor pads on both sides, and you're gonna tin the battery leads. This is super, super, super important, and this is a perfect opportunity to practice the basics. I just turned the soldering iron on. I run my soldering iron at 700 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a little bit high, but it works on both big stuff and small stuff, and that just makes my life a little bit easier. So, yeah, if you want a little bit more time, you can run it all the way down to like 650, and you'll be totally fine. I would not go much beyond 700 though. 700 is already too hot for small stuff. So you're gonna take your Flux, your syringe of Flux paste, and you're gonna put just a little bit of it on the row of pads that you're gonna be working on first. You're gonna be tempted to do all of the pads all at once. These pads are jacked into and connected to the ground. There's a layer. PCBs are a bunch of different layers. And there's a layer in there that's the ground, that's for all, that connects all of the grounds together. And so if you put Flux paste on all these pads at once, you're going to put the soldering iron onto 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That by that point, it's going to have spread heat all around this thing, and the Flux paste on the other pads is going to start to melt and go liquid and get all over the damn place. So just do one row of pads. I'm going to do this row of motor pads and then the positive here, and then that's it. Also, you have a tendency to like put your finger on the other side. If you got Flux paste, it's going to get all over your finger. It's going to be messy and annoying. So let's just do one side at a time. This Flux syringe is getting old. I need to take the tip off and clear it out a little bit. There's a little bit of a clogged nozzle situation going, so I got to push really hard on it, but it's actually totally fine already. All right. And so there we go. A nice helping of Flux on each one of the pads. Not a ton, but a good amount. Enough to make like sort of a layer on the pads. No, you don't need to put like a big ball of Flux. I mean, you kind of can't put too much on an ESC or a flight controller. You can absolutely put too much Flux on a little tiny whoop motor, but on an ESC, if you put extra Flux on here, it's just going to flow somewhere else, and that's not the end of the world. It's not the best thing ever because the Flux is like slightly acidic, and so like if you're building something that you're hoping is going to last for 100 years, you're going to want to clean the Flux off with isopropyl, but none of these are going to last 100 years. You're going to break it after 10 batteries, and you'll be told, maybe not 10, but you're going to blow it up though. So don't go too crazy. Like with soldering, don't go completely insane. You do not need to be the best solderer in the world for FPV. It's about getting it done good enough, because it's going to come apart anyway. You're going to crash it anyway. It's going to need to get fixed anyway. So like, do it right. Don't get me wrong. I definitely err in favor of doing a better job than a worse job, and I think you should too. But you don't have to go completely insane, because we're not sending these things to space. Sometimes they try to go to space on their own, but you know, that's neither here nor there. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to put the soldering iron on one side of the pad, and then you're going to bring the solder in on the other side. What I try to do, if this is the soldering iron tip and this is the solder, what I try to do is put the soldering iron down on the right side of the pad, and then I push the solder into the pad, but also into the wire at like a 45-degree angle. This way, the solder touches the tip of the soldering iron. It instantly melts, but you're also pushing it into the pad. What you're trying to do is completely coat the pad in solder. That's the best case scenario here. Let me try something. Let me try locking the focus and zooming this camera in a little bit here. Oh, no, that's the wrong camera. Don't want that one. I want this one. Okay, so let's... Oh, the focus was locked. Look at me go. All right, focus is locked. There should be an option to zoom here. How's there not a... What? All right, I'll do it in OBS then. Okay. All right. Well, hold on. How is there not... There it is. I knew there was. Oh, wait, no, shit, that's just the preview. Damn it. Really? I could have sworn there was a... There it is, there it is. There, I knew it. Okay. All right. Let's see how this is. It's a digital zoom, so like it's not the best, but it's all right. There we go. All right, let's see. I'll do a couple pads digitally zoomed in like this, and then I'll do a couple pads zoomed out, and you guys let me know which is better. Cool. So, clean the tip of the soldering iron one more time. When you take the soldering iron out of the little stand, that's when you want to clean it. Every single second that you're not cleaning the tip of the soldering iron, it's oxidizing, and that's not good. That does not promote good heat transfer. So take it out of the stand, clean it, and then do your work, and then put it back into the stand. Don't clean it afterwards. You're going to see a big puff of smoke from the flux paste as soon as I hit this. Ready? There you go. And then we're going to put it diagonal here. And that's it. That's all there is to it. You're going to give it like a split second to make sure that you heat the pad all the way up. And that's it. There you go. All right. And then if I zoom it out, I'll do the other three. I put a little bit too much solder on that last one. That's okay. Better to have a little bit too much than not quite enough. That's it. And then the positive battery lead pad. Putting the tip of the soldering iron nice and flat. And then just pushing solder in. And then I move the soldering tip, the tip of the soldering iron around to just kind of spread the solder around. You want to make sure that you coat the entire pad. That is a weak digital zoom. It barely zooms, man. It's kind of worthless, isn't it? Dave S says, is it important to cover the entire pad with solder? Absolutely. Or is a bare corner okay? It's not the end of the world, but it's not good. You really do want to cover the entire pad with solder. That's why you're just going to take the tip of the soldering iron and just swirl it around a little bit. That's the easiest way to just push the solder into all four corners. CMYK1, a T-Motor stack. Do you have thoughts on the quality? They've been good for me. Only run their motors. Yeah, T-Motor electronics seem to be really good. I think a lot of their electronics are made by Acon. I know some of their electronics are made by Acon. BetaFPV says, contemplating covering a sheet of steel with a nice thin leather so the OmniFixo holders will magnet directly. That's pretty cool. Sporny says, just hold a lighter to the tip of the syringe. Won't that catch on fire? I'm down to try it. I can always just blow it out. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, look at that! What? That's a cool little trick. It's smoking. Yeah, it's still really hard to push it out. Good Lord! I think that's made it harder to push it out. No, it's about the same. I think it's clogged in here where the plastic is. So nothing I can really do about that. So there's one side done. Now we're gonna flip it around and we'll do the other side. So we've also given this a split second to kind of cool off a little bit, you know? That's a good thing. Although it is still pretty hot. The paste is turning somewhat liquidy as I do this. But it's not so hot that it's running all over the place, so this is fine. All right, so now, one of the rules in soldering is to move the work to you. Don't move yourself around the work. If this is the tip of the soldering iron, I don't want to bring this in at this angle over this pad because there's this big shunt resistor here. So I'm going to go like that. And now I have better access to this negative ground pad. But we're going to do that last. Do the battery ground pad last. It's going to absorb the most heat. And so if you do everything else first, the board will already be hot, and that'll help you out not having to wait so long on that pad. So cleaning the tip of the soldering iron. Oh, Tamava, that's a great idea. Heat a straight pin, push it through. Love that idea. All right, here we go. So I'm going to go left to right so that I'm not crossing over pads that I've already worked on. All right. Move it around. Every pad that you do is going to get a little bit easier than the one before it because you're heating up the entire board. Make sure that you're pushing the tip of the soldering iron down against the pad itself. What you're trying to do here is heat the pad up and then push the solder into the pad itself. You don't want to be heating the solder up per se. You want to heat the pad up. Does that make sense? Just wanted to add a little bit more to that one. So ideally, you put the tip of the soldering iron down against the pad. It transfers its heat into the pad. When the pad is hot enough to melt solder, you'll already be pushing the solder into the other side of the pad. When the pad gets hot enough to melt it, it'll start melting it. You want the pad to be at that temperature. If you have like the tip of the soldering iron and you put a bunch of solder onto the tip of the iron and then you put that down onto the pad, you have to be really patient, and there's not as easy of an indication that the pad is hot enough. And what you can do is take the heat off too soon before the pad gets hot enough, and then you've got a cold solder joint. So it's a much better deal to put the tip of the iron down on the pad itself and try to get it as flat as you can. You'll see me, one of the technique things here is to hold the tip of the soldering iron as flat as possible. And so you don't want to be doing your work up like this, because if you do your work up like this, you're only going to get the tiniest little contact patch, and that's not going to transfer heat quick enough. You want it as flat as you possibly can. So drop your hand down here. Put this part of your hand down against the desk, and then you can hold it up here. Don't come up here like this. Hold your hand flat, and then you can even drop it all the way down. If you want to get it really flat, you can do this. This tends to work here, and it gives you a little bit more sort of like dexterity, I guess you could say. But make sure you get it as flat as possible so that you can put this, put the side of the soldering iron down and get a good contact patch between the soldering iron and the pad, right? You don't want this, you want this. This is going to transfer a whole bunch of heat really fast. This is not. So try to get the tip of the soldering iron nice and flat. That becomes really, this, along with that, moving the work to you becomes really important. I cannot bring the tip of the soldering iron in like this because there's a FET in the way. I can't bring it in like this because there's a shunt resistor in the way. I can't bring it in here because there's another FET in the way. I can bring it in here. What I actually did was kind of like at an angle, and I kind of just snuck it in like that. Super important stuff. That is where the majority of the technique in soldering kind of comes from. And it's about transferring the heat. Well, technique in the type of soldering that we do. I've got a little capacitor that I'm going to put on this guy, and I'm going to put it on here first, which is a little bit more difficult because it might want to move when I try to bring the battery leads in here, but we should be okay. What's nice is both sides of this will be soldered down, so even though when I put the battery leads on, I'm only going to heat one side at a time. So on these little capacitors, there's a gray stripe. The gray stripe is the negative, so this post here is the negative. And so I don't want this thing hanging very far off here. And so we're going to cut these legs down a little bit. So if I just kind of line it up half-ass here like this, I can just cut one of these legs, and then I'll use that as a guide for the other one. And so I'm going to cut it right there. Okay. Make sure that that doesn't stay on there. And before you cut the other one, just hold it back up here and make absolutely sure that you didn't do it too short or too long. And so if you're going to hang this guy off the side, make sure you give yourself a little bit of extra room in case you need to make the capacitor go up or like bend up or bend down a little bit. Depending on how flat you mount the ESC to your bottom plate is going to kind of control that. So now I've confirmed that this is the right length. So now I can just come over here and cut the other one to the same length. If you put your finger on the outside like this, you can catch whatever you're cutting so it doesn't go shooting across the room and or wind up on the board shorting two pads that you don't want to be shorted. So now these guys are cut properly. We're going to double check that the gray is ground, and then we're going to look on the ESC, and I can see that ground is over on this side. So it's going to go on here like that. They're spaced perfectly for the spacing of these two pads. And so when I think about this, I want to bring the soldering iron in from this side, so I'm actually going to do it kind of backwards in a weird way. You could tin these little posts. Better yet, just use a little bit of flux. And with the tip of the syringe, we can just go like that. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Might even help clear this thing out. So there we go. We've got flux on there. We've already got a bunch of solder on the pads themselves. But I'm going to tin the tip of the iron so that it transfers solder really quickly. So I've taken my little spool of solder. I roll it up around the base of a screwdriver just to make it into a nice little dispenser here. And I'm going to put it right here so that I can bring the tip of the soldering iron down on this, pick up a little bit of solder, and then get the work done. So solder out of the stand, clean the tip. This is ready to go. This is ready to go. Make sure that this capacitor is in the exact position that you want it before you come in with the tip of the soldering iron. The soldering iron is to deliver heat. It's not to move stuff around. All right, so we're going to come down here, pick up just a little bit of solder on the tip here, and then bring it on in. And waiting for the blob of solder to go liquid. There it goes. Patient, patient, patient. There we go. The whole pad is liquid. Give it another split second, and good to go. And now we'll roll right into the other one. I actually cut this one a little bit too long, so hold on. I got to remove and scooch this back a little bit. I put it a little bit too far forward. And I should just be able to push it like that. Hold on. Coming from this side for the negative. Yeah, well, you know what I can do? I can just sneak these flush cutters in here. Oh, board. That board got real hot. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. All right, now I got to find that little piece of metal, because I don't want it to end up somewhere that it shouldn't be. I think it shot off into Never Never Land, but just be super sure. Look around a little bit. I think we're all right. And I'm going to shorten this other one up as well. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay. And I just have to hit this negative lead. I'm sorry, the positive. I didn't quite get that on there. Same deal. Pick up a little bit of solder here, and then I'm kind of like rotating the capacitor to get the little leg nice and flat on there. Doesn't have to be perfect, especially because of the fact that we're going to put battery leads on here afterwards, and we're going to flow that entire joint. And that looks pretty good. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice. We just want it to be solid enough so that when we come back in and put each battery lead on there, it doesn't go to absolute hell. Quit out of Camo Studio here right now. I'm not going to use that zoom anymore. All right, so that guy's on there. Next step is to put the actual battery lead on there, and I have this one cut the exact right length. Oh shit! The only thing that sucks is this ESC has the ground pad on this side. This one, it's reversed. The ground pad is on that side. So these two wires are sort of the wrong length to be. The black wire is a little bit longer than the red wire because that's traveling a little bit farther of a distance. I think we'll be okay though, because like it doesn't look like I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. So removing this, even though this ESC is kind of shot, it's probably not shot. It's probably totally fine. It just had that one hiccup, but it's not worth it to find out the hard way. We're gonna flux this just to make it a little bit easier to get it off of there. Denzilla says flip the ESC, so you can't. This is an ESC that doesn't have pads on both sides. It's just got pads on one side. Kind of annoying. I'm going to pick up a little bit of solder for this too. Just a little tiny bit. Big puff of smoke from the flux there. And now I'm actually going to aid in the heat transfer, I'm going to actually add a little bit of solder here. The solder will become it'll like envelop in a way that transfers the heat better, right? Because it makes like a little pool of metal, which will transfer the heat really nice. I've already got a bunch of heat in this ESC. Let's just go directly to the positive pad, and I can probably just kick it right off. Yep, there we go. If somebody wants this ESC, I'll sell it to you for shipping. It might be totally fine, might not be, but might be totally fine. Fell out of the air one time. Other than that, it was good to go. All right, now we need to get this on here. So let me just think about this for a second. This comes out the top plate. This ESC gets mounted upside down. So this guy comes out the top plate. And yeah, see, I've got these the exact same length. So we're actually fine. We're totally fine here. I did not end up cutting the... kind of makes me want to cut. You know what? I do have to cut these. There is too much exposed wire on these. So I have to cut them anyway. So I'm going to cut the ground a little bit shorter. And then the positive is going to go up over top. And yeah, the positive needs to get cut a little bit shorter too. So let's do that real quick here. Right. Positive, and then for the ground, I'm actually going to cut it flush with the insulation, and then I'm going to strip a little bit of the insulation back just to make this ground lead ever so slightly shorter so that it lays a little bit flatter on the board there. I just leave a little dent with these cutters, and then I come in with my fingernails and pull the silicone off. And then what you can do is push the silicone down a little bit. When you pull it off, it stretches it the tiniest little bit. This actually already has a bunch of solder on it because the solder chases up the wire a little bit. So I don't need to tin this. It's already kind of pre-tinned from when I was working on it before. All right, so the ground pad is on my left. I think that would be your right. And so if you just look, so you want to get these wires as flat as you possibly can on here. I don't want this wire to be up at some jaunty ass angle like this. You want to get this flat. And so if you look, there's a little channel here. After this FET, there's a little spot here, and that's where I want the silicone to go. So it's going to be like that. That's important because I'm then going to have to take this red positive lead and put it kind of on top. So you want to get the one that's sort of under as flat as you possibly can. All right, so that's what you're going to see happen in a second here. I have to get this right, so I'm going to focus a little bit less on showing you and more on getting it right. I'm reapplying a little bit of flux here, and I want to make sure that this is kind of rotated correctly. All right, that looks nice. That's sitting up like that. And so get this perfectly in position here. And so I'm going to rotate this around a little bit so that I can come in the way that I want to with the tip of the soldering iron. And then I just want to make sure that I have good control of this wire. By the time you bring the tip of the soldering iron in, like, you're done. You got to do, it's all prep work. Soldering is all prep work. Making sure that you have everything in place, everything ready to go. And then you bring the heat in, be patient, let it all flow together, and then just hold it nice and still. All right, that's looking really good. That's right where I want it. Cool. Soldering iron clean. And once again, I'm just going to tin the tip of the iron before it comes down here. I'm just going to pick a little bit up. Helps with heat transfer. There we go. And now that capacitor won't really move because the positive side of it is connected. So the capacitor will stay. My fingers will burn though. Just suck it up. All right, and there's not enough solder on here, so let me quick pick up a bob and we will add it. There, that's better. And now I'm pushing down a little bit to kind of flatten the wires out. And that looks really good. Oh, I burned the shit out of my fingers. So you kind of have more control when you do it with your fingers. So I will let myself get burned. If that bothers you, you can use tweezers. But it's not that bad. That is a pretty damn clean joint. And now we're going to bring, again, the board already has a bunch of heat in it. So I'm going to try to bring this positive lead right on in here and knock that out. Flux, flux. Bring this in. Try to hold the wire a little bit farther back this time. Ooh, that board's hot. Yikes. Get it in position. Take your time. Get the board pointed in the right direction so that you can bring the tip of the soldering iron in the way you want it. Figure it out. And that looks good. And now this one is going to be at more of an angle. Not a whole lot I can do about that. Come on. There we go. Okay. There it goes. Pushing down a little bit. Being patient until I see the whole thing flow. All right, that one is not as good. I'm gonna have to do what's called reworking this one. The cables are exiting good, but the wire is not quite sitting flat enough. So I'm gonna come back in. I'm gonna add a little bit of solder, and I'm just gonna push down a little bit more here. And I am actually gonna use tweezers this time because I need to hold this really close, and that's where it gets really, really hot. So I'm going to hold it with tweezers here. I'm going to pick up a bunch of solder, clean the tip of the soldering iron. I'm going to pick up a nice blob of solder, and I'm going to add that. Here we go. That's a big blob. I put a little bit too much on there, but solder travels towards the heat. And so when I remove the tip of the soldering iron, it will take a bunch of the solder with it. Pushing down. Now we are good to go. And I've got a little bit of a Hershey Kiss going on, but that's okay. That's okay. That's because I had I used a little bit too much solder on there. What's important is the bottom of the solder joint is nice and smooth. Both of these have a little bit too much solder. I was a little bit too slow, and so what the Hershey Kiss means is that when you remove the tip of the soldering iron, the solder tries to come with it, and that's what makes that little peak. It's ugly, but it's totally fine. You see the bottom of the bottom left of these solder joints is super smooth. That's what's important. The important part is between the wire and the pad. And so down here, this being super smooth, this is where all the strength comes from. This little point up here, while ugly, it doesn't negatively affect anything. There's a little point on this one as well, but again, it's totally fine. Down the bottom here, it's nice and smooth. These are solder joints that'll be extra strong because of that. And there you go. There's what gauge is this wire? I don't know. I'm gonna guess like 16 gauge wire onto a little 20 by 20. My nose is just absolutely losing its shit. Hold on. Hold on. Ugly yet functional. There we go. Just like my ex-wife. Not true. Not true. All right, so next up are the motors. That is good to go. Then you just want to kind of flex this. The longer you are on the solder joint, the more solder is going to chase up the wire. If you do this and like the wire won't bend until like all the way up here or something like that, redo it. Get a different wire and redo it. But this is fine. There's always going to be this little area where the solder chases up the wire. This is going to sit like this, and then this wire is going to go up into the top plate, and it's going to sit kind of like that. So yeah, this is looking pretty good. Let me just test fist. Let me hold this against the frame real quick. The frame is over here. Hold on. 1 second. Ah, perfect. Okay, yeah. The 20 by 20 stack is a little bit forward on this. I just wanted to make sure that these cables will be long enough. They'll be absolutely fine. For the record, measuring your battery leads so that they're the exact right length is a really good way it's just a really good practice to get in. Spend a little bit of extra time getting your battery leads measured perfectly. And like I showed you, whichever, if it's going sideways, make one of them a little bit shorter. It'll let it sit flatter. It's just so much nicer than having one be extra long and all gangly and silly and stupid. So now we're going to move on to the motors, which are arguably easier. Smaller wire, smaller pads, much quicker. So we're going to put this up like that. Like, yeah. And let me just think about this for 1 second. I want that stacked up. I don't want this. I guess I could invert this. I don't really need to. No, I don't need to invert it. This can be, yeah, it'll sit like this. And then these, yeah, I would rather have that anyway, because then if it gets pulled, it's not trying to rip the pads straight off. One of the reasons I like putting these wires out to the side is that you can then, like, basically these pads are glued down. Try not to have a situation where if the wires get pulled, they get pulled straight up. This is going to sit like this, and then the wire is going to be like that. So if it pulls, it's going to pull in this direction, and that's going to try to pull the pads sideways. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Try not to have it set up where if something pulls on this wire, it pulls up on the pads, because that's an easy way to rip these pads off, is to pull them up. Try to always be pulling the pads sideways. They're really strong in the sideways direction. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so let me just get this battery lead kind of vertical here. No, let's get it set down. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to desolder one motor and then just transfer it right over. This pad is just barely big enough for that. So, battery leads in that direction. Pads are tinned. Good to go. All right. So I'm going to put it like this. Put this like this, so that I have good access to the pads. We're going to flux these pads just to make it a little bit easier to put heat into the solder. Just a little bit. Little tiny bit. Okay. And again, just one side. Iron out of the station. Clean it. And now this I am going to do with a set of tweezers, because these wires are kind of small. And there we go. Shit, I don't even know if, am I off the side of the, nah, you guys can just barely see it. Look at that. Cool, so we'll do, oh boy. There we are. And I like to just touch the pads up. I don't know, it's me being a weirdo, admittedly. So now we got this guy. We're going to separate the wires to make sure that the right wire goes to the right pad. It's not important to do that, but I think it looks better. And so now we got to take this 90-degree bend out of these real quick here. I had them all fancied up for that for the 90-degree pockets on that ESC. So take that out. First one I can usually do by hand here, and then the rest I will do with tweezers. And so with a flat pad like this, one of the things I'm trying to do is get the silicone insulation butted right up against the side of the board. If you have a bunch of exposed wire outside of this pad, that's where it's going to bend and that's where it's going to break. So if you get the silicone right up against the pad like that, it seems to be a lot stronger. So do it. Do that. Strip the correct amount of wire and then get that silicone right up on the pad there. Right up against the pad there, I should say. And so now, because these are so close together, I got to come in with tweezers to do the rest of these. So come on in here. And now, since these are so much smaller, they'll go a lot faster. But don't rush it. You got time. Okay. See how the ESC just kind of wanted to move? That's why I like this silicone pad, because it has grip. Every other work surface I've had, after I've done one or two wires, I'll be like pushing the third wire, and the ESC will be moving away. This silicone has this grip, and it makes your life so much easier. Now we just repeat that 9 more times. Let's see if this will just pop off. No, that was ill-advised. Ugh, gross. I made a mess here. Go back to the tweezers. Yikes. I should be using the OmniFixo right now. Let's get into it. This is where the OmniFixo really earns its keep. Stuff like this. So, put it here. Take 2 of these. And clamp. Actually, we're going to clamp it with all 4. 3 is fine. Get. There we go. So now this is held nice and solid. It's not going anywhere. And that's going to make popping these wires off 1,000 times easier. Still have to have heat transfer, so we got to clean the tip of the soldering iron. I'm going to pick up a little tiny bit of solder. And now it'll be impossibly easy. There we go. Whole bunch of extra solder stuck to the tip of this wire. There we go. That's good. Last one. Awesome. Cleaning these solder pads up a little bit. There it is. All right. And now I can take the whole OmniFixo and move it out of the way. Isn't that nice? Okay. Thinking about this is up and this is a pusher. All right, cool. And now we'll transfer this one. What problems do you guys have when soldering? What are the problems that you run into? Tell me in the chat or the comments, and we'll talk about it. CMYK says no race wire. No, this this frame, because it has these split thin ass arms, race wire doesn't fit. There's no good place to put the race wire on this. I was kind of heartbroken myself. All right. So this guy sits like this. So move this around a little bit. And I know this looks weird, but I just want these wires to be facing straight at this ESC. So I'm going to put it up kind of like that. It's not stupid if it works. All right. So here we go. And these are small little wires, so I'm skipping the flux. Don't do that though. Use flux. Always use flux. Until you're like really good at soldering, flux will save you time. Because you will not have to rework stuff as often. What happened there? Oh, I wasn't gripping with the tweezers. When the solder is cooling, make sure that you're as stable as possible. That is somewhat important. This thing is kind of rocking around a little bit, which I don't love. But I don't have to put much pressure on here. One of the things you can do though, if you've got like two wires and one of them's not sitting as flat, is you can grab the whole row and then rework just that one. And it'll get pushed down on there. And now I have a situation where the solder is really wanting to chase towards the iron. A little bit of flux is the answer to that. A little bit of flux on these two. I should have used it in the first place. That's going to make the heat transfer better. What you want is to pull the tip of the soldering iron off of here and for the wire and the pad to be the same temperature as the tip of the soldering iron. That will prevent the solder from wanting to chase the tip of the soldering iron. That's what we're going for here. That's how you get nice shiny little balls. Is for the whole thing to be the exact same temperature. That looks really good. Last one. Also, when you grab these wires, grab them at the tip of the tweezers. Otherwise, the tips of the tweezers are going to hit the wire that you're working on that's right next to the one. There you go. The quicker you are, the more time that you spend on the pad, the more of the flux is going to burn off. And so if you have that issue with the solder chasing, either you were too fast or you were too slow. Either you were too fast and you didn't get the whole thing hot enough, and it kind of works together. Once the flux has when there is flux, you're going to transfer heat really effectively and really quickly. And so this is why I say, like, just use flux every single time. Just always use flux. And so yeah, if you practice like these, core principles, the heat will transfer quickly, and then everything will be the same temperature. And then when you remove the tip of the soldering iron, the solder will just form a little ball, a nice shiny little ball, and away you go. It's happened to you before, and you've been like, "Oh, what was that? That was so good." That's what's going on. It's about heat, and in order to transfer heat, the joint has to be clean. This is why we clean the tip of the soldering iron, and this is what the flux does. The flux cleans the joint. It cleans all the oxidation off there, and that allows the heat to transfer really effectively. CMYK says, my problem is TS100 randomly turns itself off mid-ESC. Why is that? Yeah, that sucks. Brian Kirk says he's not steady enough. Oh, brother, I've got a solution for you. Hold on. The solution is to get your hand down on the desk, but we're going to talk more about it. Thank you for that excellent reminder. The solder just smelled like chlorine public pool. That was interesting. Just cleaning up these wires a little bit. Also, when you're wearing magnification, you can see solder balls happen. And then you can go get them rather than having them get you. All right, those wires look good. Move the OmniFixo out. Move the work in. And battery pads on the left. Okay, cool. So we got this. We got this. Just separate these so that you have room to work. I'm going to pull the 90-degree bend out. Squish the 90-degree bend out, I should say. Okay. Move this a little bit here. Tweezers. And remember, try to get the silicone right up on the pad. All right, so being steady is about A, eating something. Don't do this on an empty stomach. If you're anything like me, that will make you shaky as shit. And I skipped the flux step, and that's stupid. So yeah, don't try to do this stuff on an empty stomach when you're, or just generally when you're like dysregulated. It's all about points of contact, though. You want to have a part of your hand as close as possible to the soldering iron touching the desk. The desk is not going to move. The desk is a solid, I mean, hopefully your desk is a solid object. And so if you have a point of contact on the desk, then you're going to have this base of really, like, just this really steady surface, and it's going to prevent the shaking comes from your muscles. And so by having physical points of contact, you kind of take your muscles out of the equation as much as possible. So the worst case scenario is to have your whole arm floating, because then it's going to be your shoulder muscles, and your shoulder muscles are really far away. And that's not a good thing. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid here. Let me do this last one, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Again, just moving the work to me, not moving myself around the work. Yes, it takes a little bit of time to do that, but it's how you get a good result. Last one. There we have it. Okay, cool. So, points of contact. Here's what you want to look for. This is similar to what I was showing you before, but not exactly the same. So, this is going to shake. Doing it like this is going to shake. This is controlling everything. These muscles have to handle all this tiny little movement. You got a little bit of movement in your fingers here, but all the shaking is going to come from all this weight being on your shoulder muscles. This is better, much better, to get your wrist down. Right now, it's just these muscles. Even better is that. Now, the solid point of connection and the tip of the soldering iron are as close together as possible. If it's really a problem, you can even roll your hand all the way down here like this, and then just kind of, yeah, everybody grips this a little bit differently. This is kind of the way that I do it. I've seen people kind of do it in here. Whatever works, whatever feels comfortable and gives you the right amount of kind of movement. But the point is that the tip of the soldering iron You want that to be as close as possible to a point of physical connection on the desk. This is what makes the biggest difference. For me, this is plenty. I get, if I'm not starving to death, this right here gives me plenty, is plenty steady. I do not have to deal with vibrations when I have my hand like this. If I had it up like this, I would. If I was doing work like this, where my palm was, I would have noticeable vibrations here. But just rolling my hand down here makes a huge difference. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but try that. And in the process, it's going to get the tip of the iron nice and flat. So give that a shot. Let me know how that goes. That should help quite a bit. All right. Back to removing. We're going to remove that last motor. And then away we shall go. Here we are. We'll do it with this camera for a minute. It's probably not going to focus, but, you know, story of my life. Lack of focus. Yeah, whatever. Let's just go. A little bit of flux. Tiny little bit, no big deal. All right. Let's come in here. Smack that camera a little bit. See how long that took? Watch this. Right? So that took a little bit. And I put it up on the top, the tiny little pad. Watch this. On the side. See how much faster that was? That is the difference that contact patch makes. I'm going to do it up on the top again. Watch how much longer this takes. It was quicker than that first one because we'd already put a bunch of heat into the board. But that second one, you see how quick that popped off of there? That's because I had a bigger contact patch. There's a bigger contact patch on the side of these than on the top. That's why that matters. You want to transfer the heat as quick as you can, get the wire in position, and get the hell out of there. No screwing around. And there we go. Free ESC to anyone that is willing to pay shipping and risk their rig. Again, I'm pretty sure that this is iFlight. A shame. Okay. OmniFixo can go. Actually, no. Here. This is the other beautiful thing about the OmniFixo. Ready? Think about how long this would take with regular helping hands. Moving them all over the goddamn place. And we're good. Like, that's just, and everything stayed, right? Like, it didn't move all around. It's still here. And now this is going to make the job so much easier. Other than the fact that this thing is going to have to kind of like float in the air a little bit right now, but that's fine. This thing being this motor here. So let's take the 90-degree bend out of these. So the wires are nice and straight. Okay. This is going to make sure that the wires lay flat on the pads. You don't want to have any kind of like jaunty angle on the pads. You want the wires to lay nice and flat. There we go. I'll do the first one by hand. And then the other three, I'll use the tweezers. Yeah, this is not a great angle for you guys, but I'm just going to go. A little bit of flux. Actually going to put the flux in the wires this time. Actually really like doing that because you put the soldering iron down on the wires, and so that'll transfer the heat really fast. So first one by hand, it's going to look a little shaky. Okay. And now I can drop this guy down and get this. Grab it. Well, the carbon fiber arm makes this, if it's just the motor, it's okay. The carbon fiber arm being attached makes this a little bit heavier. It's kind of pulling down on the wire in a way I don't love. This is going to suck for you guys, but I need to do it. I need to rest the arm up on top of the camera. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see anything, but I just got to get this going. That's how quick it can be. Like, especially with these thinner motor wires, you can get in and out pretty quick. Oh boy. All right. So, no big deal. Give it a second to cool. This wire is actually a little bit too long, so I'm kind of glad that that happened. Let me just snip a little bit off. And that's going to be a better result now. Put this motor back up on top of the camera. This is janky jankopotamus right now, but let me just knock this out. In terms of a live stream, this is janky. In terms of the work that I'm doing, this is totally fine. And so now there's still a little bit of flux there. Could you guys see that at all? I don't think you could. Here's something that I haven't talked about that is admittedly a little bit harder to do, but it's a really kind of nice thing. I said that the tip of the soldering iron is only for bringing the heat in, and it is, but sometimes my nose is running like a motherfucker. Sometimes what you can do, I mean, not sometimes, you can do this whenever you want. Sometimes it makes sense to hold the wire in place, bring the soldering iron down. You can hold the wire just for a split second with the tip of the soldering iron, release the tweezers, reposition the tweezers, and then take the heat of the soldering. It's a little bit harder to do. There's totally a chance that while you're holding that wire down, as soon as you let go with the tweezers, that it moves. But that's something that you can work on. Like, as you do this more and more and more, that's something that you should work on, because that's really nice. A lot of times, like where the tweezers are to get it on the pad. Wait, you've got a ball of solder on the pad, and then you've got the wire, and then you've got your tweezers up here. When you bring the soldering iron down and it melts, sometimes your tweezers can get like sort of out of position, and it really helps to let go and then re-grab. One of the other times that that's really nice is if you're, so this happens to me a lot with race wires or arm LEDs. They're sitting against that flat carbon fiber sheet, right? So it's a PCB on the flat carbon fiber arm. And so what I'll do is I'll hold the wire, bring the heat in, the wire will drop down a little bit, I'll release, and then I'll push the tweezers all the way down so that the tips hit the carbon fiber arm, and then I'll grab it again. And now I can remove the heat, and that's not going anywhere. The tweezers are buried against that carbon fiber arm, and so they're perfectly still. That's, again, a little bit more advanced stuff, but those of you that have been soldering for a while, that's something that you can try to you know, that I've had really good luck with, kind of improving the quality of the solder joints that I work on. So here's what we're at. Here's where we're at. Hold on, I haven't really looked at them. Oh, that one's not great. I'm gonna redo just this one. It's just sort of a little gangly. Where'd those glasses go? And so I'm going to use that trick that I told you about before, where I'm going to hold a bunch of the wires together like this. And So I'm going to come in with the tweezers like this, and that'll hold all these guys together. I'm actually going to hit this with a little bit of flux. It's that first one that I did by hand, and it's just not sitting flat, quite flat enough on the pad. Nah, matter of fact, I'm just going to grab that individual wire because I also need to scoot it forward a little bit. I might actually take this off and cut it a little bit shorter. Let me see. Hold on. Let's see what happens. Yeah, there's too much wire on this. I got to just cut it down a little bit. That's what was going on. It was pushing up against the FET. Yep, perfect. All right. Took off just a little niblet. And so now make sure that the wire is pointing downwards so it sits nice and flat against the pad. There we go. That's the stuff. Another quick tip is to make sure you're using the flat, oh yeah, the flat part of the tip of the soldering iron. The chisel, they sell soldering, they sell tips that are all different. They sell round ones, they sell chisel tips, they sell 45-degree angle ones. The soldering iron tip that most of these come with is just like a regular chisel tip, and it's kind of like that. It's actually more like that. It's got a flat spot, but then it's got a big round part. If you need precision, turn it 90 degrees, and now you've got this rounded part that's nice and sharp. Most of the time, run it like this. Run it flat for a wider contact patch to transfer more heat. So here's where we're at with this. This is done, but from following those basics, like, yes, I know what I'm doing. I've soldered quite a bit, but if I didn't follow all those basics, it wouldn't look this good. My freestyle builds don't look this good. I'm going to destroy them, and so I don't follow every single basic. I skip steps. I don't use flux. Whatever. I just don't do as good of a job because I know that it's going to get demolished really quickly, and I'm going to have to just desolder them. It looks pretty good, but it doesn't look quite this good. This is, this is following all of the basics. This is doing everything as cleanly as you possibly can. This takes a little bit of extra time, but that's okay. This is a rig that, I probably won't crash and hopefully won't have to come apart. And yeah, there you go. That's how you don't suck at soldering, friends. The tips, the tricks, the frustration. Nah, no frustration, man. Soldering is a lot of repetition, but it's also a bunch of basics. I would say the biggest part of soldering is following a bunch of these basics. And then like the second or third most important thing is that sort of like repetition, just doing it a bunch. But if you don't do if you don't follow those basic things, if you don't use extra flux, stuff like that, you're never going to get good. You're never going to have shiny balls. And, if your balls aren't shiny, what are you doing? Somebody in chat says flux pens are great. I actually really don't like flux pens. I don't like that it's liquid and that when I put it on there, it flows all over the place. I really prefer the paste. The pastes, I can get more paste up on top where I want it. And then when you hit it, yeah, sure, it goes liquid, but I find that the paste stays where it should be, whereas the flux pen just, yeah, it just runs all over. Brian Kirk says, drink and solder? Yeah. Brian Kirk says, maybe I need 6 packs of soldering a day. Cole Powers says, you forgot to do the finger wag over the bad way of doing it. Wilbur FPV says, what is the motor and battery choice for this build? Also 04 Pro? No, this is actually old school Vista. I was hoping to have my live broadcast setup moved over to 04 and 03 for this event. But then I had like a month-long depressive episode, and it just didn't happen. I just couldn't get it done quick enough. I didn't like tell them, and I didn't charge them extra for the more expensive, fancier 0304 setup. So they weren't expecting it. But yeah, that will come. This will be the last event that the Vistas are on. I was also waiting for 04 Pros to come in. I was waiting on something else. I forget what it was. But yeah, this summer, I'm not going to be converting this rig over or the QAVS over. I'm going to do fresh builds. It's going to be the new AOS 3 and the new AOS 3.5 that are going to get 04 Pro, and then the old Raxus, which had 03 but caught on fire as soon as I plugged 6S into it. That's going to get a new ESC, and then that'll have 03. So I'll have a 2.5-inch rig with 03, and then I'll have a 3 and a 3.5-inch rig, 3 and 3.5-inch rigs with 04 Pro, which will be really cool. This build on the Vista at 250 grams is on T-Motor 1404 4600s. This ESC is an Axis 30 amp, and then I think it's got like an iFlight flight controller. Flight controllers don't really matter. And I run the Azure 2540 propellers. Somebody did 2.5-inch prop testing a couple of years ago, and the Azures were the best. And like, I don't think they've come out with a new 2.5-inch prop in the last 2 or 3 years. Moss1 says, do you use solder suckers? Sorry, I just turned in if you did. I do not. Early days of building and just being into FPV in general, I bought a solder sucker because I saw everybody else using them. And then not too long after that, my dad came down from New Jersey to visit. My dad was an electrical technician for 30 plus years, I think. He worked on the craziest thing that he worked on was the Princeton Plasma Physics Lab's tokamak fusion reactor, like literal nuclear fusion reactor. So my dad knows how to solder. He got sent to week-long soldering school at NASA, like actual NASA, at some point in his career. So yeah, knows what he's doing. The way that he what you want to use, in his opinion and mine, is wick, or in this case, such a fucking dad joke, but in this case, John Wick. This is solder wick, or sometimes it gets called solder braid. This will absorb an obscene amount of solder. It's really amazing how much solder this will pull. This removes the solder in the most gentle possible way. You lay this down on the pad, you put the tip of the soldering iron on top of this. I actually put a little bit of flux on this just to help it transfer heat a little bit better. But there's no pressure, there's no bullshit. You just bring the heat in, the heat chases up the solder wick, and you pull it off, and you're done. Solder suckers, the solder pads, you've got your PCB, and then you've got a layer of adhesive, and then you've got your copper solder pad. When you apply heat to that solder pad, the adhesive gets gooey, right? As adhesive does. When you get it hot, it becomes softer. The solder sucker has a piston in it. You pull the piston back, and when you push the button, the piston shoots down. So it initially, the piston accelerates downwards, and that can move the solder sucker upwards. And then when the piston bottoms out, now the whole thing is going to go downwards. Well, you've got this solder pad now that you've gotten really hot for the solder sucker, and that adhesive is all soft, and now you're going to smack something into it. That's not good. I think there might be solder suckers that have the opposite, but regardless, that plunger in there has to start moving and it has to stop moving. And so the body of that solder sucker is going to go either up then down or down then up. And when you have a solder pad on hot, moist adhesive, you don't want to hit it with something. You want to be super, super, super gentle. And so, yeah, solder wick is I believe, the way to go. I'm sure someone could make a convincing argument for a solder sucker, but you know, just also like the wick, you don't have to put any pressure. You rest the wick down on top of the solder joint, and then you gently push with the tip of the soldering iron. It's putting little to no stress on that solder pad. I've heard there are solder suckers with like a silicone nozzle. That would be a lot better. The one that I had a ceramic nozzle. I would definitely not use one with a ceramic nozzle because that's going to really like shock that pad. If you're going to do the solder sucker thing, make sure it has a softer nozzle. And then it's hard because like if you push down on it, in order to get it to not jump up and down and hit the pad, you're going to have to push down on the solder sucker. You don't want that. You don't want to be putting any pressure on the pad when the adhesive is softened up. You know what I mean? Yeah, solder suckers kind of scare me. Lots of people use them, but there's ways around it. The wick works really well. The wick is potentially a little bit harder to use, but less destructive. The trick for me with the solder wick is to add a little bit of extra flux paste. Put the solder wick down, little tiny bit of flux paste, soldering iron down in there, big plume of smoke, and then you'll just watch the solder chase up the wick. The solder chase up the wick. Nope. Dave S says, I just saw a solder wick that had no clean flux on it already. Most solder wick has flux powder inside of it, but it's not enough. I've found it to always not be enough. It usually says on the wick, this is really cheap solder wick. There's the solder wick that I stole from my dad way long ago. I think he actually gave it to me, but the good solder wick that I used to have was made by, I believe it was made by Chemwick. Just buy, it'll be in like a blue, it'll be in like a blue plastic thing here. You'll see it. When you search eBay or Amazon for solder wick, there will be ones that look like this. There will be ones that look more fancy. Buy the more fancy ones. It'll be like an extra $1 and it'll be a little bit better. My dad actually got me a set of these cheaper solder wicks in all different thicknesses so that I can try different thicknesses to figure out which one I like best. This one down here is really thick, thinner. And so yeah, that's why I have these. At some point when these run out, I'll pick whichever thickness I like the best. I think I like this thickness the best because it's kind of small. This is 1.5 millimeters wide. 1.5 or maybe 2 millimeters wide are probably the way to go. Solder wick is extremely inexpensive too. So Cole Power says John Wick 5, big wick energy. Hold on. Hold on. I gotta mind. So this is the 2 millimeter one. This one's up next. Let's not miss this opportunity. Big. Here we go. Boy, I can't see shit without those nerd goggles on. Big wick and have you guys tried to write something down recently? It's hard. It's almost like if you don't do something for a while, you get worse at it. There it is. Now I can't wait to get through the rest of that 1.5 millimeter width solder so that I can start using big wick energy solder. I think I might have spelled energy wrong. No, we're good. 10,000 points for that one. That is fucking 10 out of 10 right there. What's happening here? Get in there, thread locker. Thread locker, get up in there. Get in there. I think Teddy thinks I'm yelling at him. Nope, he's sleeping. There we go. Big wick energy coming at you soon. 2 millimeters. Why is it on that camera? Oh, I know why it's on that camera. John Wick 5, big wick energy. Name one Wikipedia. Done. I don't know if I can fit that many letters on it, but we're going for it. Wick. What is wick? P. D. Oh my god. D. Very limited space. There it is. Wikipedia. Just keep moving it closer to the camera that is in fixed focus mode. Great. All right. Cole Powers' wick is just average, but he speaks softly and carries a big wick. Yeah, those of you that don't write things down at work or something like that, have you noticed how impossible it is to write legibly? Just because, like, we don't, we don't do it. How about writing in cursive? I still remember, weirdly, I was talking to somebody and they were like, yeah, I went to write something in cursive and I just couldn't remember how to do it. I hadn't done it in like 20 fucking years. I was like, wow. Yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that. Last thing I have to do is get these grommets in here. But I don't know if you guys want to watch me do that, because sometimes it involves cursing and screaming and peeing my pants, and, But, grommets, bro. Make sure you got your grommets in there. I gotta do this. I gotta do this when I'm calm. Thanks for hanging, friends. I hope you learned something. Soldering is difficult. But if you follow the basics and you don't skip steps and you don't rush and you just fucking relax, you can do a really good job, and you can not have solder joints just break off at random. So do that. It's worth it. Thanks for hanging, friends. CiottiFPV.com to support me. For whatever reason, my Patreon is taking a beating this month. So do me a favor, check and make sure you're still on there. And if you're on the $3 tier, it's a great time to jump up to the $5 tier. You don't have to be at the live streams. You'll just be entered to win every single month. Eventually you'll win, and that'll easily cover the extra $2 a month. There's also a $10 a month tier. There's even a $20 a month tier. Patreon is how I can keep doing this. So support me, and I'll support you back. I'll tell you what to buy. I'll tell you what not to buy. I'll tell you how to solder so that you don't ruin a $60 ESC. Thanks for hanging, friends. Here's a little bit more flying from Pride Run. Love you. Bye. Oh, wait. No live stream on Friday. No live stream on Sunday. I should be streaming on Monday, though. But no stream Friday, no stream Sunday. I'll be in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the Tulsa Tough cycling race. I'll see you guys on Monday. Love you, bye! bye.